Hi Year 3. So we're now on chapter 10 and chapter 10 is called Boggs's Chicken House number 1. So that might give you a little sneaky clue as to what Mr. Fox is up to. He hasn't told us his full plan yet. So this chapter is going to be quite a long one because he's going to put his plan into practice. We will read it together and I'll put the Vipers questions up. Don't forget you can pause the video clip whenever you need to, and then we'll discuss our answers at the end. Exciting. I wonder what the plan's going to be. Fingers crossed it will work, because I know in class lots of us have been rooting for Mr. Fox. Let's see what happens. So it's chapter 10 of Fantastic Mr. Fox, Boggs's Chicken House number 1. This is the longest chapter we've read yet, so you're going to have to listen very carefully for all the details in order to answer the Vipers questions. But if you want to go back and pause the video, that's fine. This time we must go in a very special direction, said Mr. Fox, pointing sideways and downwards. So he and his 4 children started to dig once again. The work went much more slowly now, yet they kept at it with great courage, and little by little the tunnel began to grow. I'm just going to pause there because our first question says, what does the word courage mean, and can you use it in a sentence? So have a think about why they had great courage to do this, and see if you can put that word in your writing. Dad, I wish you could tell us where we're going, said one of the children. Also, he hasn't told them yet. They're not sure what the plan is. It's very interesting. Let's see what he says. I dare not do that, said Mr. Fox, because this place I am hoping to get to is so marvellous that if I described it to you now, you would go crazy with excitement. And then if we fail to get there, which is very possible, you would die of disappointment. I don't want to raise your hopes too much, my darlings. Okay, so our next question was an inference question, and it said, why do you think Mr. Fox doesn't tell the children where they are going? So see if you can find the evidence in that passage. For a long time they kept on digging. For how long they did not know, because there was no days and no nights. They were down there in the murky tunnel, but at last Mr. Fox gave the order to stop. I think, he said, we'd better take a peep upstairs now and see where we are. I know where I want to be, but I can't possibly be sure if we're anywhere near it. Slowly, wearily, the foxes began to slope the tunnel upwards to the surface. Up and up it went, until suddenly there came to something hard above their heads, and they couldn't go up any further. Mr. Fox reached up to examine this hard thing. It's wood, he whispered. Wooden planks. What does that mean, Dad? It means, unless I'm very much mistaken, that we might be right underneath somebody's house, whispered Mr. Fox. Be very quiet now while I take a peep. There he is, being very brave. Carefully, Mr. Fox began pushing up one of the floorboards. The board creaked most terribly, and they all ducked down, waiting for something awful to happen. Nothing did, so Mr. Fox pushed up a second board, and then, very, very cautiously, he poked his head up through the gap. He let out a shriek of excitement. Oh, I wonder why he's so excited. I've done it, he yelled. I've done it! First time I've done it! I've done it! He pulled himself up through the gap in the floor and started prancing and dancing with joy. Come on up, he sang. Come on up and see where you are, my darlings. What a sight for a hungry fox. Hallelujah! Hooray, hooray! The 4 small foxes scrambled up out of the tunnel, and what a fantastic sight it was that now met their eyes. They were in a huge shed, and the whole place was teeming with chickens. There were white chickens and brown chickens and black chickens by the thousand. Boggis's chicken house #1, cried Mr. Fox. It's exactly what I was aiming for. I hit it slap in the middle, first time. Isn't that fantastic? And, if I might say so, rather clever. The small foxes went wild with excitement. They started running round in all directions, chasing the stupid chickens. Wait, ordered Mr. Fox. Don't lose your head. Stand back, calm down. Let's do this properly. First of all, everyone have a drink of water. They all ran over to the chicken's drinking trough and lapped up the lovely cool water. Then Mr. Fox chose 3 of the plumpest hens. With a clever click of his jaws, he killed them instantly. Back to the tunnel, he ordered. Come on. There he is. No fooling around. The quicker you move, the quicker we shall have something to eat. One after another, they climbed down through the hole in the floor, and soon they were all standing once again in the dark tunnel. Mr. Fox reached up and pulled the floorboards back into place. He did this with great care. He did it so that no one could tell that they'd ever been moved. My son, he said, giving the 3 plump hens to the biggest of his 4 small children, run back with these to your mother. Tell her to prepare a feast. Tell her the rest of us will be along in a jiffy, as soon as we have made a few other little arrangements. There's the picture for you to look at. Now, another inference question that you had to answer was around the word plump. So Mr. Fox says, my son, he said, giving the 3 plump hens to the biggest of his 4 small children. The question says, why do you think Mr. Fox chooses the plumpest chickens? What was his reasoning behind that? Okay, so that's the end of the chapter. Your last Viper question says, summarise the events of the chapter in less than 30 words. So in your best writing, using all the vocabulary that you know, write down what's happened in less than 30 words. Okay, once you've done that, we'll check our answers through together. So now we're going to look at the answers to the Vipers questions for chapter 10 of Fantastic Mr. Fox. The first question was a vocabulary question, and it says, what does the word courage mean, and can you use it in a sentence? So think about the word courage or when you've heard it before, and then write down your answer. Let's have a look and see what I've put. Courage means to do something even if it scares you. Okay, so you could talk about Fantastic Mr. Fox or the Cubs, and you could use the word courage to describe what they did in this chapter. The next question is an inference question, and it says, why do you think Mr. Fox doesn't tell the children where they are going? So as we've seen in chapter 9 and in chapter 10, he doesn't tell them exactly where they're going until they get there. So why do you think he did that, I wonder? Have a think, and then let's share our answers. So my answer says he doesn't tell them because it might fail and leave them disappointed or upset. Okay, so he's not sure if it's going to work, so he decides not to tell them just in case they feel upset. The next question is also an inference question, and it says, why do you think Mr. Fox chooses the plumpest chickens? Let's have a look. He chose a plump chicken as it would feed his large family. And I suppose Mr. Fox was thinking that he's got lots of people to feed, so he needs lots of chicken to do that. The last question is a summarised question, and it says summarise the events of the chapter in less than 30 words. So this will be your own decision, and you can think about the words you would like to choose. You can go back and listen to the chapter again and make your choice, and then we can compare. So this is what I have chosen. Mr. Fox put his plan into action with the help of his cubs. They worked as a team to finally get food for the hungry family. Okay, so if you have written that sentence down, then just check that you've got all your capital letters correct, that you are joining up your handwriting, and that you've got very clear sentences that you can read back and that they make sense. And those are the answers to the Vipers questions for chapter 10. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. It was quite a long one. I'm going to stop there and we will be back together for chapter 11. Bye.